Dear delegates of the 2022 conference, warm greetings on behalf of the International Sociological Association and in particular the Research Committee on Sociology of Education, RCO4. Let me first start by thanking you for inviting me once more to address your conference. This year again, I'm addressing you in a distance mode. Let us hope that in the coming years we will be able to meet again in person and exchange ideas and discuss issues that relate to current developments in the field of sociology of education. The COVID-19 pandemic, in addition to the immediate impact on public health and global health systems, has had unprecedented and unexpected effects on the smooth functioning of educational institutions at all levels. The restrictions imposed on teachers and students as a measure to limit the spread of the virus highlighted the need to resort to distance learning methodologies that had developed rapidly over the last decade. The legacy of COVID on educational and social processes will stay with us with some permanent effects. We often hear that the day after the crisis will not be the same as the one we knew before the pandemic. We will all need time to regain our sociability and to reconnect with our social dimension. Nowadays, unfortunately, international security and stability are threatened by the first major war in Europe after the Second World War. But as we also often hear, there are threats of conflict in other parts of the world. We, as sociologists of education, renew our commitment to international solidarity and cooperation, and the topic of your conference, Education for Sustainable Development and Social Contribution, is as timely as ever and gains at least three axes of reference on global challenges. The first one is the threat of conflicts, global peace and stability, with adverse effects on economies and people's well-being. The second one is the threat of a recurring pandemic, either this or the next one that will appear, with consequences that are now well known to all of us. And the third one is the threat of environmental issues and the need to promote global sustainability goals. I will not go into the first two, but rather will address the third challenge that our global world is facing. Specifically, I will address the role of universities in promoting these sustainability development goals, which is a best example of how education may address the key concept of your conference and act in a socially responsible way. Even though universities are not obliged to adopt the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, a voluntary set of objectives that were adopted by all UN member states in 2015, many universities have chosen to do so. What do universities find so compelling in the SDGs? Two major appeals are the power to ensure that governments keep their commitment to implement the goals, and second, the value of providing a systems approach lens that will help students develop a well-rounded understanding of how global challenges need to be addressed. Universities are expected to contribute to their local communities and to the global community. Additionally, universities are expected to instill their graduates with a well-rounded education and global awareness. The SDGs framework models a systems approach for examining global and local challenges. It can help students understand that success in addressing issues they are passionate about depends on success in addressing other issues, including on their own campuses. The SDGs were developed because business as usual had not led to a just, sustainable world. the 193 governments that adopted these goals in September 2015 recognized that change needed to happen for their achievement. The SDGs seek to transform action on each of the 17 issue areas they address. So if a university adopts the SDG without changing its policy to become more sustainable, that's not really in the spirit of the SDGs. Developing plans for 17 goals areas may seem daunting at first, but the process can be taken in stages. The first step to SDG adoption is recognizing their existence. Universities should be committed in educating students who can successfully live and work in our globally connected world and change it for the better. Of course, whether universities actually act having in mind international sustainable intentions is a different story. Times Higher Education releases annual impact rankings to assess universities against their pledges to implement SDGs. This is a ranking that universities must apply and to supply their own information. Not all schools that has proclaimed support to SDGs are included. Much of the scores used in the Times Higher Education rankings and research is research carried out by the universities. Research is perhaps one of the most important ways universities can contribute to the implementation of SDGs. In order to understand where they are making research contributions, universities might search through their past research for keywords related to the SDGs, like sustainable agriculture and inclusive economic growth. Identifying research that matches SDG themes helps a university learn the areas in which it may already be contributing to the body of information around the SDGs, and in what areas it can expand in the future. Teaching is another important metric when measuring SDG implementation at universities. The introduction of the SDG aids the development of students' global competence and ability to collaborate and lead across national boundaries. Is the university offering classes where students will learn about SDGs and become more globally aware? Are faculty members aware of the SDGs, and do they incorporate global perspectives into their teaching? After making the commitment to become sustainable, universities need to be held accountable. Many of the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings universities have in-depth annual sustainability reports available to the public. The Sustainable Development Goals provide a common international framework for concrete action aimed at ending poverty, protecting the planet, and ensuring prosperity by 2030. The universities support students in developing the rigorous scientific mindset and spirit of curiosity and entrepreneurship needed to produce the solutions required for sustainable development. University researchers, teachers, and students work in partnership with citizens and the private and the public sector, co-creating knowledge that can produce solutions. A number of universities have incorporated the SDGs into their institutional strategies, both in management and in research and teaching. A key element in all sustainability strategies is the whole institution approach, meaning all parts of the university community, including external holders, are included in the efforts. The SDGs can be grouped into three broad areas: one that covers well-being, another set of SDGs that cover the environment, and another one that covers the economy. In the remainder of my speech, I will focus on the area that is more sociologically relevant, the first one, the well-being. Access to quality education is crucial for sustainable development and a prerequisite for the achievement of other goals. Indeed, all SDGs are evaluated through the quality of education with which they are promoted. Higher education facilitates social mobility, empowers people through critical thinking, and provides them with the skills needed in a rapidly changing labor market. Higher education contributes in various ways to making people more resilient and able to face various challenges. Recent OECD statistics confirm that people with a higher education degree are less likely to be employed and earn, on average, 54% more than those who only complete compulsory education. A university education thus better protects against poverty. Furthermore, higher education graduates are less likely to suffer from depression, which is an important factor for health and well-being. Universities are closely connected to their regions, playing a crucial role in the education, innovation, culture, and civic life of their local communities. They are also major employers, making considerable economic contributions to their regions. Let me end by providing some concluding thoughts about the prospects of materializing the ultimate goals of SDGs. First, we need to consider two important questions. To what extent is higher education institutions truly investing in contributing to the achievement of the 2030 Agenda? Can universities enhance their engagement with local organizations, entities, and communities to achieve the 2030 goals? Further, to what extent do recent developments in the first two major global challenges that I have presented earlier keep the 2030 Agenda on track? It may alarm you to be informed that already European governments are reconsidering their environmental goals, which include the use of green energy, because of shortages in the oil and gas supply caused by the Ukrainian war. Moreover, the inflation pressures that seem to have adverse effects on the economies and people's standards of living make the achieving of these goals look unattainable. So, what next? Should universities and social scientists, and for that matter, sociologists of education, give up? Surrender to the cruel reality imposed by external geopolitical and economic conditions? The answer is, of course, no. Our job is to contribute towards the best way with which these goals may be achieved. And this is through research and through educating the young generations to be critical thinkers about the intended and unintended consequences of human activity and the often adverse effects that are produced. Importantly, though, we need to contribute towards adopting a mindset that will produce sustainable futures for them and the generations that will come after them. Inevitably, this shifts the scope of our research from the local to the global and from the micro to the macro. Let me end by making an announcement. Next year, in June 2023, we will have the International Sociological Association Congress that was postponed for a year in Melbourne, Australia. The call for papers is now open until the 30th of September. The 20th ISA World Congress of Sociology will focus on how sociologists worldwide can and do contribute to the understanding of the resurgent authoritarianism and analyze the new entanglements of religion, politics, and economies. It will also focus on how sociologists engage physically and critically in the formidable social movements we are witnessing today in different parts of the world and in a Renaissance civil society. Let us all meet physically there and continue our fruitful discussions. Thank you very much, and good luck with your conference.